Okay. Well, we just wrapped up a segment on decluttering, and now we're jumping back in, and we're going to talk about the joy of reading. So, we want to welcome Ann from the Gwinnett County Library. Which branch are you?
Thank you. I'm in Lawrenceville.
Okay, the Lawrenceville branch. We are so blessed to have. We have a Gwinnett has a lot of great resources. We have the library, we have our parks, and so we are just thankful to be able to have those resources at our fingertips. Uh, we are here to focus on the self-care of the caregiver and how they can be proactive in their loved one's plan of care. But we want to bring topics to them that aren't always, there's a lot of information sessions for caregivers on how you can take care of your loved one, but we don't always focus on how can you take care of yourself. So we just wanted to bring some things to you today that you could just think about. So we talked about decluttering. Now we want to talk about the joy of reading if you like to read. So in the resources that Gwinnett County Library can bring to us. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Let me just read Ann's bio because I thought it was very interesting, some dynamics, and something else came out of it as well. So Ann is a lifelong learner and reader with 18 years of bookstore experience and now working in the library. And she said, what could be better than that? So she's lived in Gwinnett County for 30 years and has seen it grow, as we all have. She has a heart for volunteering and started volunteering with hospice in 1994. Starting in 2007, she worked as a volunteer coordinator with hospice. That's the part that I want to talk to you about too. And then in 2018, transitioned to volunteer coordinator for Gwinnett County Public Library. So that combines two of her passions. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm so impressed to be here and learn about your resource center as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. So let's talk about the joy of reading. So you mentioned that you're a lifelong learner.
Yes.
So that means you do a lot of reading.
I do. I've read since I was a child because both my parents loved reading, and I was always in the school library and then the county library where I lived in New England. And coming back down here, I really didn't get into reading voraciously until I started working at Walden Books.
Okay.
Walden Books is no more.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I remember Walden Books.
Yeah, Walden Books and then Borders.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love bookstores. I do value bookstores, but I always went back to the library as well because, especially when I was a young married person, I did not have the money to go out and buy a bunch of books, but the library was always a resource. And so I really want to emphasize that the library has a lot of wonderful resources, fiction as well as many others.
So what do you like to read?
Well, that's a hard question because when I first started, I would say it was all fiction, but then being exposed in the bookstore environment to so many different things, and I loved having conversations with customers. So they would say, I love this type of book. So I am really like across the board, except for mathematics.
Okay.
I would say, but really all the sciences, many nonfictions. Fiction is still my go-to though. Fiction, romance, historical fiction are the ones that I use for relaxation.
Okay.
And that's part of the whole caregiver experience as well, I think, because when you're a caregiver, which I have been, and I've been with my hospice experience around many caregivers. And in fact, the hospice where I work had an inpatient center. We had a beautiful library in there. And so often I would see families in there taking 15 minutes and getting a book and just sitting down and reading, or taking the book back to their room with them. And after a loved one died, we'd often have people come back and say, the library really was my respite when I was staying here with my loved one. And so I really want to donate. And they would bring boxes of wonderful books, hardcover books.
Wow. Okay.
I really learned the value of reading, even if it's 5 minutes.
So it doesn't have to be a lot, you're already a lot of caregivers are in the burnout mode. And so we're not here to overwhelm you. We just want to give you little things that
Yeah.
you can do to bring enjoyment. So even if it's just an outing to walk, I like what you said about browsing through the bookstore, and especially if you aren't currently, someone that likes to read or find, or maybe just feel like you don't have the time to read, then just go browse. And like you said, just pick up a book and for 5 minutes, and you bring a unique experience that you've dealt with caregivers as a volunteer with hospice. And if they really felt like that was respite, just really taking your mind away and just enjoying something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've read studies because I thought it was really interesting to know that reading is an activity that will lower your stress level. Now, maybe not if you're reading a legal document, because I know in IRS stuff, I know that makes you stressed out. But most of the time, reading, even if it's 6 minutes, the studies say that it reduces your stress by 68%, which is a significant amount. So it's a matter of engaging the mind, almost like mindfulness or meditation. Reading just brings you into something for a short period or for hours, what you have time for. And it just helps you alleviate stress, whether you're aware of it or not. You might not even realize. Reading a magazine article just focuses you for a few moments, and then you're able to come back and be a little bit more relaxed.
And what we talked about in our first segment was ways to make better decisions and how decluttering can do that. One point I was going to make, one benefit of the library is you don't have to declutter your home with a bunch of books because you can take them back. And so let's talk about some of the resources and programs that the library has.
Sure. Well, we have, of course, books, which it's still, for me, holding a book in my hand is really something soothing. And a lot of people say even the smell of books really makes a difference. But we have lots of books. We have books that you can order. We have 15 branches. So if your library doesn't have it, you can go online and put it on hold. It will be shipped to your library within a couple of days. If our library system doesn't have it, but it's a book that's available at some library in the state of Georgia, we can also get it for you through something called the interlibrary loan. There are so many books available on audio. So I'll tell you a short story. My dad is 91. He was a good, voracious reader. He's now blind. So he lives on books on CD. My stepmom called me one day and left me a message at work saying, I have an emergency. So I was like, what happened? I called her back like an hour later. I said, what's going on? She said, the library's closed. I said, oh no. Well, he had run out of his books on CD and COVID had happened. It was right when it first happened and all the libraries closed. So she was just scared me to death, but we were able to I told her, go on eBay. I'll send you some of the ones that I have at home just to keep him going because he was miserable, which made her miserable. And as a caregiver, you know that when your loved one is agitated or unhappy, it really makes you much more agitated and unhappy. So we've solved that problem. So the point is we have audio books on TV, as well as Audible. So we have a program called Libby, which with your library card, you have access to, that has lots of ebooks that you can download. So it just means you have to have a computer or a device like an iPad or a phone that you can read on. And for me, I was like, I can't read on my tiny little phone. But you can increase the font and you can do an app that switches the pages for you. So it is something you can get adjusted.
Yeah. Okay.
So
and that's Libby.
Libby. Libby is an app that we have through the Gwinnett County Public Library, and it's free with your card.
Okay.
Some other things that are free with your card, if you, like I said, it doesn't have to be a book, but if you want to read a magazine article, you have a favorite magazine that just makes you feel good to read, there we have something called Flipster. So you can go online with your library card and have access to hundreds of magazines, current magazines. We also have something called Press Reader, which has magazines in over over 1,000 newspapers from 100 countries.
Wow.
So you can also go on and take advantage of that too.
Okay.
And if you're into genealogy and you're sitting home with your loved one and you're able to have conversations with them and find out about their history, maybe you never took the time to ask those questions. The library offers Ancestry.com free with your library card. Otherwise you would have to pay quite a bit for it. And if you are a caregiver who's interested in learning some things while you're at home, we also have Gale courses and Lynda.com courses. All, again, I brought my library card, free with your library card.
And so what's Gale?
Gale is a series of educational courses.
Okay.
It goes from first grade through 12th grade. It has college courses. I've gone on there to take a course on photography. I've gone on to take one on reading and learning about grants. So you can do in the business world, personal interest, nonfiction interest. You can also, I did a meditation course, which was really good.
Also, lots to offer.
And Lynda.com is more the technical. So if you wanted to learn photography, or you could learn a new computer program, if you're not familiar with one, go on and learn that. There's a lot of different things.
And during COVID, this is a great time.
It is.
to do some online learning. So you were talking about, I wanted to go back just a minute because you were talking about your dad and your mom with the emergency. So how can we have a lot of family caregivers or people that are in our senior community that are stuck at home. How can they take advantage of some of these resources if they, can't get out?
Great question. We have, there's all the electronic versions. We also have a program for homebound customers, homebound readers called Mailbox Books. And you just have to fill out an application online. It's free. If you have a visual disability, the postage is automatically paid for. But if you don't, we have a fund that pays for the shipping. So basically you would go online, fill out the application, let the people know at our Mailbox Book Center what your interests are, especially if you have a specific author, and they will pull those books for you and they send them out and you have a certain amount of time and then mail them back.
Okay, so there's no excuse not to take some time to read because the resources are at your fingertips, either online or through, what'd you call it again?
It's called Mailbox Books.
Mailbox Books. So you can still get books if you are at home. But the Gwinnett County Library also has 15 branches.
Yes.
So I'm sure that there's one close to you if you can get out. So then you can use that as an opportunity as respite as well, just to go out and browse the library and see what they have. And like you said, read for 5 minutes.
You can browse online and really get to see a lot. But we have a new service because of COVID, again, because we're right now open curbside only, so you can't come in and browse. But we do have something called Book Concierge. So you fill out a form, you say which genres you're interested in, and then you can even pick if you have certain authors that you really like. And a librarian who's very skilled at this will pull together some books for you so that when you come to pick them up, you have a selection since you're not able to browse right now.
Okay.
That's a wonderful new service that we have.
Well, and that makes me think of with my son. I have a son that's 14 years old, and they send me suggestions based on what we've checked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you like this, you'll like this.
Okay. All right. And just try something new. Try a new type of book.
And
so what are some of the books that you brought with you today?
I was thinking in terms of caregivers, because I have been a caregiver. My mom had vascular dementia, and my sister was the main caregiver. But I would take a 9-hour trip to Virginia to stay with her sometimes to give my sister a break. And instead of worrying and thinking on my drives, I always listened to a book on CD. It made the time go by much faster. And I arrived there more relaxed because of that. I also know with caregivers, sometimes you're suffering from loneliness, boredom, because you're not able to always talk to other adults. especially if you're dealing with a loved one with dementia or some other memory impairment or just not able to speak. So your world becomes so much smaller. And going into a book, you get to meet new characters and kind of develop a bond with characters in the book. You also get to live vicariously through people. So not just COVID keeping us homebound, but just in general, when you're caring for a loved one, there's not a lot of opportunity to get out. But you can travel the whole world and into outer space with a book. You know, you really can learn, whether it's a fiction book or a nonfiction book. There's some wonderful books about travels in the world that you can read. And same with magazines too. And you might not have time to read a whole chapter. So I love the books with very short chapters. Another thing that you might find is maybe there's a lot of books that are too sad or maybe too scary, or you find it boring. In the old days, I used to read through a book just because I thought you had to. Now I feel I value time and say there's so many more books out there. If I get bored with something, I put it aside. But there's just, sometimes we're stuck and we just have a few minutes, where a TV show you can't really step away from. With a book, you can read a short chapter book. So this is one that's nonfiction, but it's a group of women who write about life as a great adventure. Each chapter is, it's an essay basically. It's maybe 3 pages long. So I would just pick that up if I wanted something that's uplifting. Then this is one of my favorite books, and it's marked because it was in a book club. It's called The Enchanted April. It's old, but it's about a group of women who gather in a place in Europe, and it's about life stories, kind of like, it's fiction, but so much truth that comes through it. So whether you have experienced those things yourself or not, you still have empathy and you learn about life situations through fiction. So that's the other thing. We offer, a lot of our library branches have book clubs. So you can learn about a book, whether you've read it or not. You can be on it virtually online and learn about it. Or we also have a more internet, like national author book club that you can listen in on too. And many publishers have book information available, like little snippets about books, so you can decide if you want to read it or not.
Well, and that's a nice way for connection, as some of us are still staying safely in our home. You can join a book club at the Gwinnett County Library.
Yes. And we also have, like I said, books on CD, which again is like you can stop and start it, as opposed to watching a TV show. Or, well, with movies, I know you can stop and start. And then I also wanted to mention that there's a book called Simple Pleasures that just has little simple things you can do, which brings me to my cup of tea. When I'm sitting down to read and I'm wanting to do it for relaxation or stress relief, I have this favorite cup. So you might, if you're home taking care of your loved one, you might have a particular cup. You might have a little nook. I know many times when I was sitting with caregivers, the kitchen table was covered with like nurse reports and all the things you have to do to care for your loved one, but carve out a little niche, a place where you can sit. And this one is good for book lovers because it's a woman sitting on a stack of books with a cup of tea. And I also value bookmarks that have a saying on them. So even when you're just sitting down, it's just a reminder that it's time for you to self-care, do some nurturing for yourself. And even if it's 5 minutes, to give yourself the time.
Yes, we're not trying to overwhelm you as a caregiver, but a nice cup of tea, a bookmark to remind you of and we love affirmations. I mean, you know, it just helps keep us uplifted. And then finding a book that can provide you respite, but then also give you thoughts of, you know, travel. We can't do a lot of traveling right now. You can pick up a book and, like you said, you can go there with the characters, go there with their environment. So.
And then another thing that is just a little kind of a mind trick is you can pick up a book that you read when you were young, like Black Beauty for me, or Heidi, or Laura Ingalls Wilder, Little House on the Prairie. Any of those things that you read when you were a child, it kind of brings back all the good memories of childhood too, and they're fast, easy reads. Or you might pick up a young adult book now, like the Harry Potter series. they're just so easy to read.
Mhm.
And they're fascinating, and you get kind of absorbed in that world for a little while. And it gives you just a little bit of break. So when you come back, you're a little more refreshed to sit with your loved one.
Mhm. Well, and you mentioned a book on audio. You would listen
Mhm.
to that so that you were just in a better mindset to visit with your loved one.
Mhm.
So we just want to provide you small ways that you can take care of yourself. We're giving you permission to take
Mhm.
care of yourself.
You have to, because if you as a caregiver are sick, then your loved one's going to suffer more because you're not able to help them. And too often we see that can happen. So it's really important for the extended family that's involved to also recognize that, to give the caregivers breaks when it's possible to.
Mm-hmm. So find small breaks.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of resources at the Gwinnett County Library. And what is the you can sign up for a library card online.
Yes, and just so you know, your property taxes pay for your library card. So you are about $40 a year on average is what it costs out of your property tax. So you're entitled to all of these great resources.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so much more. But like we have learning labs where you can make a video or audio. You can do 3D printing. You can do sewing. Sewing's another great kind of restful thing to do. And if it's something, you know, you can make placemats, you can make masks, you can make anything you want. Even just like knitting. Reading is like knitting in a way. It's a focused attention that you put on something that helps everything else kind of fade away and make you feel a little more relaxed in the moment.
And feeling relaxed is important as a caregiver. We go through caregiver burnout, and we just want to give you just some small things to think about to keep your self-care a priority. Yeah. So the joy of reading. And I like, Ann, that you said, you know, because sometimes it's overwhelming to think of, oh, I'd love to read that book, but I don't have time, and it's a big book. Just 5 minutes. Just escape for 5 minutes. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Short chapter books, because they're it's a story within just a chapter, right? So it ends.
And we don't make any judgments either. Because I met one lady who was caring for her husband, and for me, horror books would not be something I would choose. But she said it was the best escape for her because it was a totally unreal world, almost like science fiction. And she just went there for a little while. So never judge what somebody might find relaxing is what I learned from that.
Yes.
There's all kinds of books out there for everybody. And that's why when somebody, especially there's a wonderful selection of books for caregivers out there. There's even Chicken Soup for the Caregiver Soul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful caregiver books, but no one I couldn't say what worked for me would work for you. Mm-hmm. Everybody has to find their own thing they resonate with, because every author that wrote those caregiver books has a different experience.
Yeah.
So
and that's why it could be that outing that you just go
and browse and let your intuition tell you what is going to resonate with you.
Okay. So 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just finding ways to just nurture your own soul.
Absolutely.
All right. So the Gwinnett County Library website is?
It's Gwinnett, www.gwinnettpl for publiclibrary.org.
And we appreciate all the great resources that we have in Gwinnett. You can find resources online. So if you are staying safe at home, you can still take advantage of what the library has. Or if you want a physical book, and said that they have a program that will mail those books to you.
Yes.
So
mailbox books.
Yes, mailbox books. So we just want to encourage you to take 5 minutes and
then take a walk, make a cup of tea, sit outside, get the sun on your face for a few minutes. You know, just read for a few minutes, just a magazine article or a newspaper article, or your favorite author.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our caregivers today?
No, I just think it's so important that you recognize the value of what you're doing in the moment, because sometimes you might feel like I'm the only one doing this. It's a very heavy burden, even though I don't want to feel like it's a burden, because then I feel guilty for saying that. But your loved one appreciates you, your family appreciates you, even if you may not hear that all the time. And the community appreciates you for spending the time with your loved one. And make sure you take care of yourself.
We're giving you permission today. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much. Thank you to McKinley for being a great resource.
Thank you.